Hey friends, welcome to the Nourish Child podcast. Today, this is episode number 190, and we are talking about whether it is safe for kids to lift weights.
Welcome to the Nourish Child podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey friends, I'm Jill Castle, a pediatric dietitian, mom to 4 kids, and host of this podcast. I started this podcast in 2016 as a way to help families and healthcare professionals learn more about nutrition and feeding kids. My goal has always been to make nourishing your families easier through breaking down science into understandable concepts you can put into practice right away, and shedding light on and improving the emotional well-being of kids through feeding and food. You can always go deeper on my website, thenourishchild.com, where I have resources for children ages birth through teen. I'm always so grateful you're here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Jill, your host of the Nourish Child podcast. Happy to be here in the throes of summer. In fact, yesterday was a summer solstice, the longest day of the summer, and I can't believe we've already passed that milestone this summer. I'm looking forward to the 4th of July. My husband's birthday is on the 4th of July, and all my kids are coming home to celebrate and spend the weekend with us. Some of them are bringing their significant others, so it will be fun times for the Castle family. I hope that you are enjoying these short episodes for the summer. Last episode number 189, I talked about Prime Drink and whether it's safe for kids. I also listened to that episode and I sound like a croaking frog, and I apologize for that. I have had a nagging cold and cough for about 6 weeks. And it came from my husband. I'm going to blame him because he travels a lot and he brought it home to me. And unfortunately for me, when I get a cold, I have a really hard time getting over the cough part of a cold. So I feel like I'm on the other side of that now, and I hope I sound more normal to you. I did not sound like myself last time, but it was truly me. So apologies for that. So today I want to talk about kids and lifting weights. It's something that comes up quite a bit, even back in the late 2008, 2010, when I was running my private practice in Nashville, and also in my private practice that I ran in Connecticut. This came up a lot, especially when it came to some of my male clients, preteens, teenagers wanting to lift weights, wanting to bulk up and build muscle. And even my own son, when he was in high school, and even before high school, when he was in middle school or junior high, around the time he was in 7th grade and starting to be more serious about rowing, part of the weekly workout was to lift weights. And I always struggled with this because I just didn't feel like it was right for my young preteen son to be lifting weights. And frankly, when we think about bodybuilding or weightlifting, back when I was in private practice, and even 10, 20 years ago, any kind of bodybuilding or weightlifting was discouraged. And for good reason. We know that intensive bodybuilding or weightlifting can injure the growing bones and joints, and this was really the biggest reason to discourage weightlifting. Unfortunately, at that time, strength training and weightlifting were sort of equivalent terms. They sort of meant the same things. Today, though, they mean very different things, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But I want to address this whole topic of being obsessed with the appearance of the body, especially in boys, before I get into the upside of strength training and how to get started with your child and how to keep it healthy, if you will. But this obsession with the appearance of the body, especially in boys, and the potential risk for a disordered relationship with one's own body are really the big reasons today, in my mind, to discourage weightlifting or bodybuilding. This desire to be muscular or to bulk up is a really strong one for boys right now. Part of this is really due to social media and media in general portraying this idea that a body on a young male needs to be ripped and broad-shouldered and very muscular. And for younger boys that are seeing this and getting these messages, they think that that's what they should be doing. And they've registered that as sort of the desirable appearance, and it can lead to some really dangerous behaviors. In 2019, I wanted to highlight a couple studies around this. So in 2019, the Journal of Adolescent Health looked at data from more than 15,000 high school students from the 2015 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and they found that about 1/3 of teenage boys reported trying to gain weight. So gaining weight, when a boy says, I want to gain weight, oftentimes that means I want to bulk up. It's kind of code word or code language for this desire to be more muscular and to bulk up. In a 2021 Current Opinion in Pediatric study, the authors found that about 22% of teen boys and young men are engaging in some sort of muscle building behavior. So weight lifting or power lifting should not be encouraged in children. It stresses the bones from a physiological standpoint or physical standpoint. It stresses the ligaments, the cartilage, and it can potentially injure the growth plate, especially when the technique is poor. In younger boys who've not gone through puberty or are in the early stages of puberty, they don't have the hormone levels to support building muscle. You have to have a threshold level of testosterone in order for the muscles to grow bigger. So in young boys, this bodybuilding, bulking up desire and action is sort of a futile effort because they just don't have the hormonal environment to make this happen. Adding to this, if a boy or even a girl has a poor body image, that desire to become more muscular or leaner or to bulk up can turn into an obsession about exercise and building muscle. So aside from just physically injuring bones, ligaments, cartilage, and the growth plate, this psychological risk of bulking up and focusing on body appearance carries its own danger. So how do you know if your child's on a dangerous path? Well, I think one of the things that is a really clear sign is this hyperfixation on food, like only eating certain foods that are high in protein, for example, or cutting out bad foods like sugar or carbs, and focusing on when you're eating, the timing of eating, or focusing on making sure you're exercising every day or really getting into exercise. These things can all be a red flag for a poor body image. Kids change a lot. Their nutrition needs, eating habits, and food preferences do too. So much so, it can be hard to keep up. The Nourished Child, a website designed for parents who want more nutrition education, helps parents like you get crystal clear on raising good eaters. We've cracked the code on nourishing the whole child, whether you're raising a baby, a teen, or a child with health concerns. Our nutrition school and parent education programs help you get the inside scoop on food and nutrients, positive food parenting, and building self-motivated, autonomous kids who are good eaters. Visit thenourishedchild.com today. The other thing that you can be looking for is this constant body checking in the mirror. So looking at your muscles or looking for the abs that you think should be there. This body checking is also a red flag. Even hiding your body behind big, baggy clothing can be a sign of poor body image. So remember, poor body image, I've talked about this on the podcast before. Poor body image is not uncommon in children, but when it becomes extreme, it really can be very much tied to dysfunctional or disordered eating behaviors, and even in extreme cases, eating disorders. So there's a difference between bigger, faster, stronger, and just bigger. And a lot of boys are focused on the latter, just getting bigger. So does this mean your child cannot build strength? No, not at all. Because we know from research, and there's a good body of research that I actually worked my way through as I was writing the book Size-Wise. There's a good body of research that tells us there are benefits of strength building for children. So I just do want to emphasize, though, there's a difference between strength building and bodybuilding, weightlifting, powerlifting, right? So strength building is really focusing on building more strength using resistance, one's own body weight, and controlled movements. It's not gulping down protein shakes and protein bars and hitting the barbells to see how much weight you can lift. These are two very different things. So I want to make sure we're all clear on that. You know, the research says that the benefits of strength training in children are that kids do build increased muscle strength and endurance. That doesn't mean bulky muscles. It just means stronger muscles. There's also a benefit around protecting the muscles and the joints from sports injury. Building more strength can also improve athletic performance if you've got a sporty kid. Your child, though, does not have to be an athlete to strength train. Non-athletes who do strength train get other benefits too. They make stronger bones, they have better blood pressure and cholesterol levels, they're able to maintain consistent growth, and strength training can improve confidence and self-esteem. So there are some guidelines and resources around strength training for kids. And at the end of this episode, I will connect you with those. But when can your kid actually start to strength train? Well, studies and research suggest as early as age 7 or 8, but the child must be able to follow directions and use proper techniques to avoid injury. Supervision by an adult is highly encouraged just to make sure technique is good and to make sure danger is avoided. What about bulking up? As I mentioned earlier, bulking up is most effectively and safely done after adolescence, when the bones are mostly formed and hormones like testosterone are at peak levels. So some of the safest ways to start strength training is to consider a coach or a trainer. This might be simply following the gym teacher's directions and practicing some of those movements in gym class so your child understands what those are and can do them outside of school. But if you have the means and the inclination, you can consider a coach or a trainer. A coach or a trainer is going to put safety first, and they're going to emphasize proper technique, provide that supervision, and help your child set appropriate goals. I had a client in my private practice when I was in Connecticut who was an 8-year-old boy who played on a basketball team, and he was in a larger body and wanted to start to strength train. And his family, his parents, put him in a once-a-week situation where he worked with a trainer who happened to be his coach, and they just focused on agility, flexibility, and strength. And it helped this little guy not only become a better basketball player, but more importantly, it really built his self-esteem and confidence up. The ability to be strong and do some of these exercises, which aren't necessarily easy, pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, squats, lunges, all of these body weight exercises that build different areas of strength in the body. When children can participate in those things safely, it can not only help them be stronger, but it can help them gain self-esteem too. Light, free weights are okay. The recommendations are 1 to 2 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions, or a child could use resistance bands, fitness machines, and body weight exercises like I mentioned, push-ups, squats, lunges, those sorts of things. Proper technique is really something that's very important so your child does not get injured. It's the way to avoid injuries to the tendons, ligaments, and the bones. And the most encouraging thing, you guys, is that strength training is safe for kids of all sizes, provided you have the supervision, the right technique, and nobody is overdoing it and getting overzealous about it. Every size body can strength train. The priority is to make it fun, engaging, and safe. And as a parent, a priority for you is to watch for any warning signs of poor body image or disordered eating or disordered exercise. So some of the resources that I will link up in the show notes over on thenourishedchild.com, and this episode is number 190, so it'll be thenourishedchild.com/190. One of the resources is the American Academy of Pediatrics clinical report on strength training in children. I'll link that up for you. It does have all the parameters and goes into quite a deep dive into strength training in children. I have interviewed Dr. Rebecca Hansen on the podcast, and she talks about the power of exercise for children. It's a really good episode. I'll link that up in the show notes. I also have 2 articles that might interest you. One is called Non-Diet Tips for Fast-Growing Kids and Teens, and the other one is called How to Be a Fit Kid. Both of those will be in the show notes. They're articles you can read and learn more about this topic. And then lastly, the 2 articles I cited in this episode. One is called Boys, Bulk, and Body Ideals: Sex Differences in Weight Gain Attempts Among Adolescents in the United States. That appears in the Journal of Adolescent Health, 2019. And the other one is Eating Disorders in Adolescents and Young Men, an update. That appears in Current Opinion in Pediatrics from 2020. Again, both of those will be linked in the show notes over at www.thenourishedchild.com/190. That's it, folks. I hope that you have found this to be a helpful topic. Let me know your questions. Email me, jill@jillcastle.com, or go to thenourishedchild.com, go to the podcast tab, and there is a microphone that you can tap on and ask your questions with your own voice, and I will be sharing those and the answers to your questions on the podcast. Don't forget to check out the resources in the show notes, thenourishedchild.com/190. And that is it for today. I hope you guys have a lovely end of June, a terrific 4th of July holiday, and be sure to give that child in your life a loving squeeze today. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.